Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Judy and I love travel, history, and finding out how people live. I also love to cook. When I travel, I'm always on the lookout, not just for new tastes in foods, but experiences. Sometimes I love them, occasionally I hate them. When I love them and want to have them at home without seeking out a restaurant, I have two options. Occasionally I can duplicate a recipe at home using the same ingredients. The internet is a source of millions of recipes. Other times I'm more interested in duplicating the experience, perhaps using similar ingredients. We just finished up a 2 months-long virtual visit to Barcelona. I don't know about you, but a woman can work up a powerful thirst and appetite tramping all over a city. Spain provides a very appropriate response to my stomach's demand. Xeres y tapas. Come along and learn about the origins of this delicious ritual and how to prepare and experience something similar at home without breaking the bank or spending all day, today with me as the Armchair Traveler Cooks. The word tapas literally means covers or lids in Spanish. It has an odd origin. In the old days, before there was such a thing as air conditioning, barkeepers used to stack a small snack on top of a beverage glass, mostly to keep out dust and insects. That bit of bread and possibly a small bit of meat or cheese would cost a little bit of money, but the salt invited the consumer to drink more, and alcohol always has a higher profit margin than the cost of the snacks. It's a whole culture of eating and socializing in Spain, similar to the Russian idea of zakouski or possibly an Indonesian rice staffel, although of course the ingredients in the beverages involved are quite different. Tapas are a Spanish cultural phenomenon. Different regions of Spain have different ideas about what can be put together, but for our purposes, any kind of sausages, cheese, meat, fried potatoes, olive oil, olives, and more will work. They can be served, as they sometimes are in restaurants, individual dishes, or more likely in a home from a large platter. The style can range from finger foods through foods that need to be stabbed with a toothpick and all the way to small plates. Things like fried potatoes would fit in here, that you have to actually eat with a fork. There's always a story behind something like this, and often more than one. This is the one I liked. According to the legend, the idea of tapas arose when King Alfonso X of Castile became very ill during his time as king. Alfonso apparently could only eat very small portions of food and wine at a time. As a result, he declared that no one should be served alcohol without some sort of food. Thus, the idea of those small plates was born. I have to add in here that the idea of laying down a food base before getting into the alcohol is almost always a good idea. Sherry is a fortified Spanish wine produced from white grapes. The variety is called Palomino in the town of Xeres at the southern tip of the Spanish peninsula. You can see I've marked it on the map for you. Depending on how the grapes are harvested and handled and what is added, the brew can range from very light, pale, and dry, similar to what we've all probably seen in someone's pantry and labeled cooking sherry, to darker and heavier versions that have been allowed to oxidize as they age in a barrel, like Amontillado. Pick a different variety of grape, and you can also turn out sweet dessert wines. Viniculture, or the cultivation of grapes, was probably introduced to the Spanish peninsula by the Carthaginians as early as 1100 BCE. The Carthaginians had boiled up out of North Africa. Crossing the straits to what is now Spain was fairly easy, and in the area in and around Xeres, which was close to where they beached their boats. 3,000 years ago, winemakers could grow, harvest, and grapes. They learned early on how to turn that juice into a kind of hooch by fermentation. The practice was carried on by the Romans when they took control in around 200 BCE. If you've seen my introduction to Barcelona, I'll put the link for you in the description box below. You know that the Iberian Peninsula was conquered and dominated for a significant period of time by Muslims, and today, devout Muslims abstain from alcohol. This wasn't always the case. They conquered the region in 711 CE and introduced distillation, which led to the development of both brandy and these fortified wines. Wine production continued for 5 centuries of Muslim rule. In 966 CE, Al-Hakam II, the second caliph of Cordoba, ordered the destruction of the vineyards. But the inhabitants of Xeres appealed on the grounds that the vineyards also produced raisins to feed the empire's soldiers, and the caliph spared 2/3 of them. Spanish sherry goes under the name of Xeres after the home where it was created, but similar wines are produced all over, even in the United States. Sherry was previously known as sack from the Spanish word saca. The name is what my Latin teacher would label a false friend. The name lives on, trademarked, copyrighted, and marketed, sometimes on supermarket shelves, in a cute jute bag and under the name of dry sack. A consumer, a host or hostess can always venture out to a sophisticated wine shop, and I admit you'll find a much wider variety of sherries, along with some advice, perhaps from someone who actually knows about sherry there. But you can do reasonably well in a local supermarket, providing it carries alcohol. In general, and tastes do vary, you want to match the style of the sherry with the type of tapas being served. I stick to two: Fino, a dry and pale sherry that goes pretty well with light and salty tapas like olives or almonds, ham, salami, and salty seafood like anchovies or possibly grilled shrimp. And a second, Amontillado, which is a medium dry sherry with a slightly nutty flavor. Amontillado pairs well with richer tapas such as cured meats, aged cheeses, pickled mushrooms, and dishes with a bit more depth or spice like chorizo. The image on the left shows you a variety of glasses that could be used for this task, but I personally think that's overkill. I serve my sherry in standard, relatively small wine glasses, similar to those in the photo. Like most of us, I only have so much storage space, but I found a photo here on the right of a copita glass, which has a distinct shape, about the same capacity as my white wine glasses, and basically useless for any other purpose. Tapas are generally served as an appetizer or a snack, like French hors d'oeuvres. They can be combined to make a full meal, which we might call heavy hors d'oeuvres, more substantial and a relatively inexpensive substitute for a full meal at something like a reception or a gathering. They can be hot or cold. In Spain, where tapas bars are quite common, one way of doing this would be to visit several restaurants, consuming a different selection of snacks and sherry at each one. My neck of the woods is heavy on Latin American origin restaurant fare, but with the exception of one Spanish-themed restaurant in downtown Washington, D.C., true Spanish cookery seems to be absent. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy this delightful custom. It just means you may have to make it for yourself. Tapas are a very easy way of providing a nice light meal, complete with adult beverages to your family and guests, and one that has the virtue to the busy cook of being relatively easily prepared in advance. This photo shows you my recent effort, which went over quite well, and left my husband, my son, my daughter-in-law, and me feeling not just happy, but well fed. It helps to be able to explain what is on the plate. In this case, and not shown in the photograph, there was thick sliced Italian bread. On the plate, starting at about 10 o'clock, is thin sliced Virginia ham, salami, sausage, yellow cheddar cheese, manchego, an aged Spanish cheese, a wedge of French brie, my son and daughter-in-law really like brie, and both white cheddar and a combination of manzanilla and black olives in the center. I serve this with Taylor Pale Fino Dry Sherry and a far more expensive imported Amontillado medium sherry. A little surprisingly, everyone except my sweet-toothed husband liked the Fino better. Thank you for joining me on this edition of the Armchair Traveler Cooks. Come back next time for another adventure with me, the Armchair Traveler, as your guide.